community, to help our community to solve a problem. So the problem that we are investigating are the coronavirus pandemic in homeless communities. So for homeless communities, they've been one of the most hard hit groups during the pandemic, which especially since they live in close proximity and don't have access to many of the supplies that we have access to. So they have been one of the most hard hit groups. So to try and to help in the effort to solve this problem, we are creating masks for homeless people across San Francisco. So our goal is to build and donate 500 face masks to the homeless in San Francisco. So as we know, health experts have suggested that masks significantly reduce the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, which really helps homeless communities, especially since they live in close proximity. So they don't really have the ability to maintain a 6 feet distance a lot of the time. So masks will especially help in that effort. So the beneficiary which we are donating to is Project Homeless Connect, which is a group that donates supplies to the homeless across San Francisco. During this time, because of COVID-19, they are donating masks, and we are going to donate 500 face masks to them. They do this off donations from other people. So we're going to make and donate 500 face masks to Project Homeless Connect, which will donate to homeless people across San Francisco. This is a basic outline of the materials and tools that we are using. It is fabric, elastic, adhesive tape, beads, and then supplies and tools that are needed. So what we need from you is to execute this project. It costs $400, and this includes materials, supplies, and unplanned expenses. We plan to borrow all tools. So yeah, we do plan to complete this project by September/October timeframe in order to plan for a second wave of COVID-19. So we are requesting $400 of funding in order to execute this project, because that is the amount of money needed. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, have you done any fundraising so far?
No, not so far. So I have not done any fundraising so far. The total costs are $400 for the entire project, and that includes everything. So there isn't any fundraising prior to this.
Do you plan to have any other organizations contribute to this cause? And then, because you said that the complete date should be, you're anticipating end of this month, September 30th?
Yeah, end of this month into next month.
Okay, so wait, what's your goal for your deadline to have them all completely made and distributed?
Yeah, so the goal is to have the, currently the date that we are targeting is around September 19th. So we can have all the masks distributed to by September 30th timeframe. But
Okay.
it may be a bit tight, so it may go into early October timeframe. But around that time period, give or take 2 weeks.
Aneesh, who is we?
So basically, I'm executing this project alone, but I have some help, of course, from advisors and yeah. So I'm executing this project alone, so I need about $400 to execute the project.
So when you said we, you weren't saying that there was a group of you working on it, just you.
Yeah, it's not really a group working on it.
So nobody else from your troop is helping.
No other scouts from my troop. I do have an Eagle advisor whose job is just to advise me on how to uh, how to go about the project. So then
Is it the Eder family?
no, his name is Mr. Charlie Cho.
Okay. Okay.
And Aneesh, what are the guidelines for your project? Does it suggest that you go out and raise money, or does it suggest as part of your project that you earn some of it? How does that work?
Okay, so this
Like, let me say one more thing, and that's when I start a business, usually I have to use some of my own money.
yeah, so the Eagle Scout Service Project suggests that we fundraise all the money needed. Of course, so the Eagle Project does say that you have to fundraise all the money needed for the project. So yeah.
Okay. If you don't mind,
Aneesh,
Anish, stop sharing your screen so we can go back to the group and see if there's, thank you. Are there any other, hi, Paul Venezia, there's that handsome man.
yeah, Aneesh, I have a question. Are you so are you sewing these, and then how long does it take to sew each one? And then what is what are the medical guidelines in terms of the product that you're providing?
Okay, so the plan is not to sew these because that takes time, but we've found a tool that is very similar to sewing. It's almost just as efficient, meaning it'll hold, and it is washable in the washing machine and hand washed. It is steam double-sided adhesive tape, which is used to which you basically are able to stick the two sides together and then iron it, and then it'll hold. We have tried it and it works pretty well.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from the group?
Are you going to ask other people other than just our Rotary for the $400?
You're the first group I am going to. I do have backups. So my goal is, if I am able to get the $400 here, it would stop. If I'm not, I will go on to other groups. I do have backups.
I will tell you, never tell a donor that. The more you raise, the more you raise, my friend, the more you can do. Don't leave it like that. Okay? You involve whoever you can from the get-go. Somebody chimed in and said, yeah, but
Oh yeah, I have one more question though. How did you come to choose San Francisco rather than San Jose?
Yeah, I asked that too, yeah.
So I did email multiple organizations. San Francisco is the closest that I managed to get a reply back from. So that's the reason I am doing San Francisco over San Jose. During this time, I was not able to get any email replies back from San Jose.
So
Who'd you call?
I was gonna say, if Ken could identify somebody locally, would you want to maybe redirect it? Remember when we were talking via email, I asked why not people in your backyard, our community. Say Ken identified a neighborhood, a community, an organization. Would you reconsider who would be the receiving party of your project?
I mean, it really.
The answer could be no. That's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Currently, I'm working with this organization, and
You are, okay. Then
I
that's
think
okay.
the organization really does a good job with the homeless community.
Feel confident with your decision making and just say, no, the relationship is built with this organization. That's fine.
Sage
Okay.
advice, Rebecca.
Say again, Bert?
Sage advice. You're giving him you have a lot of experience in this area. This is,
Yeah, I do.
I would
Yeah,
just,
absolutely.
I would just say, sorry, I'd just say one more thing. I mean, if you're trying to get something from somebody, a lot of times an email doesn't work. You got to reach out with a call and then multiple calls to figure out what's going on. That's all I would say.
if you're trying to sell him financial services.
Whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
Or
I
anything
did-
for that matter.
But
I
I think
did
one,
go over a
one
call
thing to
with the-
one thing to recognize, Aneesh, is that as a Rotary Club in Almaden Valley, we do have a special interest. And your project gets a few more points if it's directed to our interest group. Do you see that, Aneesh?
Yeah, I see that.
So,
But
you know,
with that said, we also do things outside of our backyards, but to both of their points, we always want to take care of who we know and our neighbors, right? But in the same breath, I find it admirable that you found a demographic and a notarized organization that'll use it wisely and appreciate it. So Aneesh has to go to school now. So he's going to swap our screen out and go to school from the same chair he's in. And Aneesh will be in contact, okay?
All right, sounds good.
thank you.
Thank you so much. You can
Thanks.
go ahead and,
Good luck, Aneesh.
yeah,
you, Aneesh.
exactly.
Good luck.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay, before y'all start swearing, make sure he's logged out. He's just a kid. Okay. We'll go ahead and Brian, do you want to go back to the regular scheduled meeting?
Yeah, okay.
Brian, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
I
not,
can't
Bill, your
too.
camera looks great, Bill. The camera's looking great.
I know, I
Well-
thought you were gonna have a camera by now, Bill.
I've got one finally on order. You wouldn't believe what I've tried that didn't work, with all sorts of consultants telling me it would.
Okay.
All right.
I have a wavy flag that's gonna hopefully work.
There we go. I see it. Now I don't.
There we go.
Now I
All right.
see it.
Please stand or sit or whatever you can do. I pledge allegiance
To the
To the
flag
flag
of
of
the
the
United States of
States of
America.
America. And to the republic
The Republic.
for which it
Which
stands,
is
one
one
nation,
nation.
under God,
Under God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, great job. Okay, Bill, will you give the prayer for the day?
I will. Whenever we doubt the future, let us look into the hope of a child's eyes. When we make a promise to the young, let's ensure that we keep it. And if we treat adults and children with equal respect, our world will be a better place. Amen.
Amen. Fully agree.
All right, Jerry, the thought of the day.
Thought of the day. There are basically two types of people. People who accomplish things and people who claim to have accomplished things. The first group is less crowded.
All right. So, before we get started, Rebecca, Joan,
Yes,
yeah, do you see anything down on the bottom of your screen that says poll?
it says what?
Poll, P-O-L-L, poll?
No,
No? Okay. All right, just thought it might.
I see polling.
Yeah, you do.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Maybe we can do the polling, Brian.
It's up to you. We can try and see how it flies.
Yeah, we'll try.
Yeah, I've got, if I click on it, I get Chief Grape Quiz.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, good.
What country produced the most wine last year?
Yeah, great. Then you can share the screen and when it comes up. All right.
Okay, well, you want me to share my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
All right, Rebecca. Is there anything?
Brian.
Do you want to, announce or anything?
Say again?
Do you want to announce anything or?
I already did in the leaf. You all read it, right?
I did.
Yeah, you copy and pasted. As long as you read the leaf, I'm not going to be redundant. We have stuff planned, and my goal is that everybody participates. Last week we did do some calls out to people that did not attend, and I would like to continue doing that. The calls that I made were received really well, and Paul Yanaka was very thankful. He just is under strict house rules, but I think the more we keep in contact and continue to make efforts with people we don't get to see or talk to, the better we stay as a unit and the stronger we can be. So we'll continue to do that.
All right. Do you want to get started?
Sure.
Okay, so we do, Brian Moore is our speaker today. And just to let you know, Roger kind of turned us on to him. He's a past 5180 district governor in 2008 and 2009.
Where's 5180?
Sacramento Valley.
Sacramento Valley.
Thank you.
He's educated as a civil engineer, but he has a pretty interesting hobby. He began his hobby of wine appreciation in 1978. He had no formal training in the study of wine. At the urging of a friend, he attended a meeting of the Sacramento Home Winemakers Association. And that club focuses on to educate members and not only make good wine, but develop a knowledge of various types of wine grapes and how to care for them. Brian saw an opportunity to learn about a product that was chiefly produced in the areas of surrounding Sacramento. I've done a lot of trips around Sacramento wineries. He participated in administration of a statewide competition that was the responsibility of the club at the time. In 4 years, he became president of the club and served numerous years assisting at wine competitions throughout Northern California. In 1987, he was invited to sit on an exam to become a state certified wine judge. He was one of 4 that passed the exam. As a certified judge, Brian has been invited to serve as a judge for numerous commercial and home wine competitions. He's one of the longest serving wine judges for the California State Commercial Wine Competition. Even though he has been a judge for over 3 decades, he continues to learn with each competition. He's a firm believer that wine appreciation is up to the individual. Okay, Brian, you can share your screen if you like.
That's one hell of an introduction.
Yeah.
Kind of like it.
Okay, well, you can see me on the side there. First off, let me explain the program a little bit here. Thank you, Brian, for the introduction. That's the longest introduction I've had in quite a while. Anyway, what it amounts to today is that I'm going to share a program with you, and this is intended to have some fun, okay? It's not intended to embarrass anybody, but what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a little bit about wine, and I'm going to ask some questions, and I want you, if you would, to do your best challenge to decide, well, is that true or false? Or, yeah, I know what country that is. So I guess Joan's going to help me here. So, but first off, before I pop back my screen to her, let's get this program started. There you go. Okay, wine smarts, let's move on. Here's the first question, Joan. What country produced the most wine last year? Now, if I'm going to basically unshare my screen so you can pop in and share the poll.
Okay,
Okay, you have the poll there in front of you?
I'm sharing right now. Can you see my screen?
I certainly can.
And now I'm going to say launch
bud.
poll, right?
Yeah. Poll number 1, there it is. Okay, all right. First question. There you go. You've got basically what country produced the most wine last year? Just check whatever box you have, and then we'll get a reading on that, and then I'll go on down to the other one. We'll just go ahead and do that slide too. Look at those and pick out which country you think did the most wine last year, and then which country do you think did the most, consume the most? Now what's going to happen is click the bottom of the submit, and Joan's going to get the answers, and what it's going to do, it isn't going to tell who voted, but it'll tell you how many votes in each category. And so Joan, you can share that with us?
Okay. There's still some coming in.
Okay, well, we'll give them 10 more seconds.
Or a lot of people haven't voted.
Oh, well,
You have to do the submit.
just take a guess, folks. We're not going to hold you to it.
Spain and Italy.
Okay, I'm going to end poll.
Okay,
There we go.
okay, all right. Tell me what was the most popular one, Joan, and number 1. All right, Italy and the United States. Wow, okay. And then on number 2, which was the most popular? France and Italy, huh?
No, I'd say France and the United States.
Okay, let me, there it is. Ah, okay. All right. Well, let me, give me the screen back to me.
Okay.
I'm going to, all right. Let me go back and share my screen.
Did you get it back?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh,
Yeah, turn it on.
I'm still viewing Joan's screen.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay.
Oh, all right. Now let's try. All right, we'll go back to this. Here we go. Okay. Here is the next screen. Whoop. Bingo. Okay. Consumption. Excuse me. Let's move back to 1. There we are. Italy. Italy was the most. Okay.
Wow.
Now, how many people voted for Italy? I can't say. Joan has that number. But anyway, point out this is billions of bottles, folks. Billions. And look at where China is in that. Okay. But look at the top. 7.3 billion bottles. Overall, worldwide, down at the bottom, over 30 billion bottles of wine consumed last year alone. Last year. 54% were red, 37% white, and we had some rosé there. Rosé is becoming very popular. It's coming back. Okay, here was the next question that was put on the poll. What country consumed the most wine? U.S. Now, this is millions of gallons. Millions of gallons. Again, look at China. Look at China. And by the way, what country do you think is the most, what color of wine do you think is the most popular in China? Anybody want to raise their hand and tell me? All right, Roger, unmute yourself.
I think it's white.
Which country?
China.
Actually, China is the correct as far as red is concerned. And you know why red is popular in China? Because red is considered a lucky color. So there's why red is so popular. Now, when we're talking about the U.S. and what states consume the most, well, we all know California, we do our fair share of it here. And then you've got New York as well as Florida after that. Okay, well, let's move on. One last question here. You historical buffs, what historic United States event was celebrated with 54 bottles of Madeira, 24 bottles of Claret, and 24 bottles of port. Anybody got a good history mind on him? I see a lot of shaking heads.
Something Portuguese.
This is a historic United States event. Drafting of the United States Constitution. Look at this. Look at this. This was one hell of a bash. The bill for the celebration party for only 56 attendees included 8 bottles of whiskey, 8 bottles of hard cider, 12 bottles of beer, and read the bottom, 7 bowls of alcoholic punch large enough for ducks to swim in. Can you imagine what a bash that was? Woo! Well, let me tell you a few things about our founding fathers and their wine ways. Good old George. George really liked his Madeira, and Madeira is a very, very sweet wine, okay? And it's high test, as I say, it's high alcohol, 20%. He became fond of that when he got a taste of it, of course, coming from Portugal. Well, it turns out that he doesn't just buy a bottle or at a time. He bought at that time what they called a pipe. And a pipe was basically over 125 gallons, actually 126 gallons of wine. And that lasted him about 3 or 4 years because he drank 3 to 4 glasses every night. He liked it that well. Well, let me tell you about another president we have here. Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was actually our only president we've ever had that was at his own vineyard, basically. And let me share with you that when he was in 1801, when he was president, his salary was $25,000 a year. We're paying a little more now. Out of that, he spent $6,500 on what they said provisions and groceries. He had $2,700 basically for uniforms. He paid for the clothing of his servants. And he had $500 set aside for Mary Lewis. This is before he went on the Louisiana Purchase, but basically Mary Weather Lewis' salary was $500 as secretary. But look at his wine budget. $3,000 was his wine budget. Amazing. Unfortunately, Thomas Jefferson wasn't too successful in developing wines here in the States. He imported grapes from Europe, but they developed a disease called phylloxera, and many of them died. So he had to cultivate some from the local vines that we have here. All right, the last one I'll share with you. Good old Ben Franklin. He was considered quite a ladies' man, and he liked his liquor. And so it's said, though, that basically, and you probably know, he was the author of Poor Richard's Almanac. Mm-hmm. And he's known to a couple phrases that he's posted in that at that time. And one being, wine is sure proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy. And the last, and this is where Rotary, I guess we finally figured out a 4-way test. When wine enters, out goes the truth. Okay, so we got to remember we're 4-way test people here. Okay, well, let's move on. I'm going to test you now. True or false, folks? Cabernet Sauvignon is the most planted grape varietal in the world. Jerry, can you tell me? Turn on your mic for me and tell me what you think. True or false?
False.
Actually, it's true.
Oh, false.
It's true. We had a 50-50 chance of getting it right, but you know. There's over 890,000 acres of Cabernet Sauvignon grapes planted in the world today. Quite a bit. Yeah. Actually, there's more Chardonnay planted in California than there are Cab. All right, let's go on to number 2. Only 4 different grape varieties are permitted in port wine. Joan, what do you think? True or false? Say what?
I'd say true.
You can put as many as you want. As many as you want. Yeah. Typically, though, your answer is correct in a sense that most ports are made with 4 primary varietals of grapes. But there's no limit. All right, number 3. Foot treading of grapes is still used to produce small quantities of port wines. Brian, how about you? Unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm going to say true.
That is true.
Hey.
That is true. Yep. Yeah,
We
so
love
it is.
Lucy.
All right. Brian's on a roll right here. Number 4, wine grapes rank first among the world's fruit crops in terms of acres planted. True or false, Rebecca? True or false? 50 cents.
I would say false.
Let's say true.
I was thinking it.
It's
Damn
true.
it. Darn
Believe
it.
it or not, we all got a 50-50 chance, you know, and this is all part of being the fun. All right,
should've
number
gone with
1,
my dad.
last one. Sniffing a cork determines the wine quality. I'll give you another chance, Rebecca.
No, ask somebody else.
All right. Let's go down to the line. Roger, let's see. You already called on you. Let's see if we can get Dave. How about Dave? Unmute yourself, Dave, for me. What do you think? Is that true or false?
False.
You're absolutely correct. That's false. All a wine cork does when you look at it, odds are you're looking at the condition of the cork, not how the cork smells. All right, let's move on then. You've heard people say, hey, I got a headache, and it's because of that damn red wine. And it's the sulfur in that red wine that's giving me these headaches. Well, let me share a few points with you, and then let's see if you agree, okay? First myth, sulfites in wine cause headaches. Honestly, there is no proven medical research document to date that states such, that they've been able to prove it, okay? Now, maybe there's a few other things that might give you a headache besides sulfites. Too much alcohol? Yeah. Tannins? Yeah. So maybe it's not the sulfites. Well, let's go on to myth number 2. Red wine has extra sulfites in there, therefore it causes headaches. Let me share with you some statistics. Basically, there are codes or requirements as far as maximum amounts of what we call parts per million sulfite in wines. Okay, the maximum amount that is recommended for white wine is 210 parts per million. Dessert wines, 440 parts per million. Red wine, 160 parts per million. Now, if you're getting a headache from sulfur with red wine, I gotta think that it's basically you're damn well gonna have a headache with a white, and dessert wines, folks, guess what? Even more. So that argument kind of falls to the wayside. Let's go to the next one. Sulfites are inherently unnatural. You hear some people say they had it. Well, sulfites basically are kind of like a preservative, and they're often found in white wines added to them because white wine tends to spoil, and many of the winemakers don't know what condition the wine is going to see when it leaves the showroom or the winery. So oftentimes you'll see white wine introduced. Red wine, not so much, because red wine has tannin in it, okay? So basically, it is natural in a sense that through the fermentation process, sulfur does occur, and you have SO2 that arrives in the wine. Number 4, wine should be avoided because of the sulfites it contains. Let me share this next slide with you. It is amazing. Sulfites in wine is the title of this little table. On the vertical scale, you can see these are parts per million SO2. On the bottom are the various items. So as you start with the far left, you can see, oh yeah, red wine, and I mentioned it was around 160. But as you proceed to the right, take a hard look.
Fries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't this an eye-opener, folks? Look at dried fruit. Again, if you have a headache because of sulfites, my God, you better stay away from dried fruit. But French fries, look at all the items well above the parts per million rating of a glass of red wine. So I guess my point is that probably it isn't the sulfites that are giving you the headache, okay? It's probably, like I mentioned earlier, too much alcohol. Could be the tannins. Red wine does have tannin where white doesn't. Or it could be the histamines too, okay? But sulfites, I think you'll agree with me, what I've shared with you, it's probably not that. Okay, let's move on. So, why do we drink wine? Well, it's good for your health. Look at this. First, it helps lower the cholesterol, reduces the risk of heart attack, reduces the risk of colon cancer, good for brain health, contains anti-inflammatory properties, reduces risk of dementia and Alzheimer's, and some of us PDGs really need that, right, Roger? Yeah. can help to boost immunity, as well as it helps to harden enamel and prevent tooth decay. It's rich in antioxidants. And lastly, it's full of probiotics. Now, why would you spend $50 for a little bottle of Phillips probiotics when you could have a hell of a good time with a full bottle of wine of your choice? I tell you, it would be an easy decision for me. All right. And it will not give you a beer belly. All right. Guaranteed. Wine will not deliver that. I have to make that point with these beer drinkers around here. All right. Here's a little more trivia for you. Amazing. Wine has been around a long, long time, folks. Look at this. When they opened the tomb of Tutankhamun, they found some jars. Of course, the wine was gone. But what was fascinating about it is that it had labeling on it, and it identified the year as well as the winemaker's name, and basically stated whether it was good wine or not. Now, mind you, this was back in early times. They were making wine then. Astonishing. There's a winery in every state of the United States, every one of them, including Alaska and Hawaii. In fact, I think there's 2 in Hawaii. So don't kid yourself. Wine is very, very popular in the U.S. And here's the best wine cellar you'll ever hear about. Unfortunately, access is an issue. The wreck of the Titanic has a huge selection of wine. Perfect temperature control, no sunlight, but getting to it is a little tough, okay? And they still feel, and the cork's never gonna dry out. The wines are probably still good to this day. All right, number 4. This is why we do not open a champagne bottle with the bottle neck facing us, folks. Longest recorded champagne cork flight was 177 feet, 9 inches, 4 feet off the ground in New York. Now, if a champagne, or what we call sparkling wine here in the States, were to have that much pressure, it'd knock you into next week if a cork hits you in the head. So please be aware when you open a bottle of sparkling wine, point it elsewhere. Okay. And last, I love this. Wine is mentioned 521 times in the Bible. Try to find it in beer, just one. It's not mentioned one time in the Bible. Beer. Nope, never heard of it. Okay? All right, let's move on. I got a couple true or false more questions for you. You should swirl red wine, but not white or rosé. Burke, what do you think?
I usually like to swirl red wine, but yeah, the white of the rosé, not as much, just because it gets warmer.
But can you? I mean, it can. I guess I'm saying you're telling me, yeah, I can swirl any wine I want.
Well, I'm saying I probably do it more with red because I'm looking for characteristics, but yeah, I don't really know the answer.
The answer basically is you are right in a sense that you can swirl white, rosé, red, any wine you want. There's no limit to say, oh, you only swirl red wine, but you never swirl white or rosé. So your answer is correct. In a roundabout way, you nailed it. All right, next one. Descending tears. These are called legs that you see on the outside, on the inside of a wine glass. Basically, does that denote quality of the wine? Paul, what do you think?
Yes.
Actually, it denotes the alcohol or glycerin level. Doesn't say a thing about the quality of the wine, but it's just basically the glycerin level in it, okay? All right. Mead is a type of wine made with honey instead of grapes. Greg, what do you think? Unmute yourself for me.
Mead is a type of wine. Oh, I mean, that sounds reasonable to me.
You're absolutely right. It's true. And mead is an old style wine. It was made years. In fact, the Greeks had it back then, and they considered it an aphrodisiac. Okay, and so they encouraged many young couples to consume large amounts of that particular wine on their wedding night. And so nowadays, when we hear the term honeymoon, we know where it came from. Right
Oh,
there.
wow.
Okay. Burgundy and Chablis are varietal names of grapes. What do you think, Ken? Tell me.
Yes.
No.
Actually, they're not. Basically, Burgundies and Chablis, there's no varietal of that name of grape. Basically, they use it as a blend maybe, but there's no grape like a varietal's Chardonnay or a varietal's Cabernet. There's no such grape as a Burgundy grape or a Chablis grape, okay?
That's because Ken's a beer drinker.
Well, I'm not going to hold that against him.
I actually just bought 4 cases of wine from a friend that he got it at an estate.
We'll make you convert here before it's over. Okay,
Yeah.
here's the last one, and this is the one that stumps most people. 90% of all the wines produced in the world are consumed within 1 year. True or false? Rebecca, I'm going to let you answer that one.
It depends on the household.
I'm going to say, generally speaking,
I would say no, though.
it's true.
All right.
It's true. Surprisingly enough, and this is why the wineries are tickled to death about this statistic, because that means, guess what, folks? They do not have to warehouse so much wine now. So the wines that are warehoused often are used, they call them library wines. But the 90% consumption, bingo, man, we get that wine made, out it goes to the stores, and it's sold. That's fast. That is, many people don't realize we really do consume a lot of wine. We really do.
Well,
All right.
I will now be go against it. I'll stay with false, because you can't validate that it's consumed just because it was purchased.
Oh yeah, I guess you could say that.
I can. I just did.
Okay, I'll stand on that as a good constructive comment. Thank you. All right, then help me out here. Here's 3 types of bottles. Can you name the type of bottle they are? Jerry, got any ideas? No? How about Brian? Dave? No, okay. Let me share with you. Joan, you got an idea?
Not a clue.
Okay, this is real interesting. Look at this. The wines, I don't know if I can get it to come in. Huh, I'm frozen here. There it is. Far left is called a Rhine bottle. The middle is a Bordeaux, and the outside's Burgundy. Note, they're all European names. Nothing. Now, I'll share with you here, California's coming up with their own ideas. I don't know if you've seen this or not. This is a cardboard bottle, okay? It has a vinyl bladder in it, screw cap, wine bottle, all recyclable. It's made out of cardboard. It opens up, pour the wine out. I wouldn't recommend the wine right now, but other than that, look at the application. Good old California trying to recycle stuff. Here's another one, another sample. Winemaker, must have been a beer maker at one time. Look, we've got growler caps on. Basically, the way this works is you buy the wine, you consume it, you take it back to the winery, they replace it basically with another bottle that's already sealed, and they take this back, sterilize it, and recycle it back with wine in it. Another approach. So we're getting innovative as opposed to what you're seeing there on the screen. Okay? All right. Let me talk a little bit about corks here, one of the last subjects here for today. Corks versus screw caps. Okay, oftentimes people say, well, God, it's got a cork in it, it's got to be better than a screw cap. Well, let me share with you. First off, there's an old tree in Portugal called the whistler tree, and the reason it's a whistler tree, they say, is because the birds get up in there and whistle. That's Portuguese for you. Anyway, this tree is 230 years old, and basically, on all cork trees, you can only harvest cork every 9 years. So basically, back in 1991, I pulled this old spec out, they harvested over a ton of cork from this one tree. And you can see basically what it amounts to is that the beige color is where they harvested the cork. You only get about 60% of the harvest they can use to make bottles. cork bottles. The rest of the cork is recycled in flooring, other materials or other products that use cork. So basically, what you're looking at is that particular volume bottled 100,000 corks. So we don't have, based on you look at 9-year cycle, it's tough because you look at all the wineries in the world, not everybody can have a cork. It's not feasible. So let me talk a little bit about pros and cons here. Okay, so what do you think the pros are for cork? Okay, natural resource, okay, although it's limited. Historically preferred, years and years of cork, okay, and it has been proven to be long-term aging. Over a certain period of time, they eventually have to replace the corks because they do decay. Okay, the cons. The price of corks nowadays is astronomical because they're so it's limited based on the number of wineries. Basically, also, excuse me, corks are exposed to what they call cork taint, which smells like musty cardboard. Not a lot of people can pick it up, but it is a bacteria that gets established in the cork and will influence the wine. Once again, limited natural resource, variable quality now because not everybody can have a quality #1 cork. Some of them are using lesser qualities, which means the wine needs to be consumed earlier, okay? Basically also, natural corks breathe at different rates. All right, well, let's look at the screw caps. Pros, much more affordable option, which it is, okay? Of course, you don't have the problem with cork taint. And let's face it, it's one of the damnest easiest things to open you can find, all right? You don't need any kind of tool to open it up, none, okay? Cons. It doesn't breathe, all right? But if the wine's consumed in a reasonably short period, whether it be 90% in a year, but whatever, if the wine's consumed during a reasonable short period, why would we worry about whether it could breathe or not out in the bottle? Basically, it's mostly made from non-renewable sources, you know, and it's recyclable, but unfortunately not biodegradable. And it lacks the pop sound, okay? So you don't have that romantic sound at a nice dinner evening, okay? I don't know, you could hear a screw cap screech or not, but anyway. And it's often associated with cheap wine. Let me share with you that back in 1997, when one of the wineries called Plumjack just decided they were going to bottle their cab using a screw cap. No other winery out of Napa Valley had ever done that before. Well, they took their 1997 cab, bottled every bottle of it, and sold every bottle of it at $155 a bottle, screw cap. And it was an excellent wine, I was told, okay? But with that, it does pose a problem, okay? Because when you go to a party, and I'll be the first one to admit, this is where things can get confusing after a few bottles of wine, and I'll share this little picture with you, and I hope you can just keep it to yourself. Make sure you know if it's a screw cap or a cork. Otherwise than that, you have some explaining to do. Okay. That's it. That's all I have for the evening. I'm quite willing to answer any questions you have. Thank you very much for putting up with me.
Good job, Brian.
Oh, thank you.
So I have a couple questions. So so I got all this wine, and it's like 06, 07. How long will that last? And then also, when I take a cork out of it, how long can I keep it without having to drink the whole thing? So should I consume it all in that day, or is it good for a couple days?
Those are both good questions, okay? Number one, it all depends on how you store the wine. If you have it at room temperature to where the wine temperature, or the room fluctuates a lot, temperature-wise, that's gonna affect the life of the wine. You also have to keep it out of the light, okay? So it's put it under if you have a 2-story house, put it under the stairwell or something of that nature, where it's dark. And in an interior room, don't put it against an exterior wall of the house, okay? Because that wall will heat up and that will impact your wine. Now, as far as how long can I keep that wine once I open it, red wine, typically you can get by 5 to 7 days, okay? Again, I would throw it in the refrigerator as opposed to leaving it out in the room. But it's amazing. I challenge you to do this, Ken. Open the bottle and take a sip the minute you open it, okay? Then let it set. You don't have to empty it, but let it set for 15 to 20 minutes and taste it again. And it will be amazing the difference you will find just simply because the wine was exposed to air.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It is. It really
Have
is.
you heard
The
of putting wine in a
literally
blender?
changes.
Have you heard of that? Putting wine in a blender to aerate it?
No. At what stage?
I don't know. The guy that I bought the wine from, he was
At
telling
what
me
stage do you put it in the blender?
he pours it out of the bottle into a blender, aerates it fast, and then I don't know. That was just what he was telling me he did.
Well, that's a unique way of approaching it. I actually have what they call a vitury, which you basically pour it, it aerates the wine, and that works particularly where you have some wines that are kind of marginal, they're a little old, that need to be aired out rather quickly. You can do that with that, but I've never heard of a blender. That's a first.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Brian,
Is there?
Brian, I sent you a list of wineries from the southern part of Santa Clara County. Did you get a chance to try any of those wines?
I did not. I have not had a chance to get down there, but you have some fantastic wines just a short drive from you. I mean, there's some really talented winemakers down there in the Morgan Hill, Gilroy area. I'll be the first one to say that I've never tasted the garlic wine that Gilroy professes to make, but there's some far other wineries down there that are very, very impressive, have done very, very well at our state competitions. So it's right out your back door. Beautiful, you know. I hope we have some wine drinkers here. But I'll encourage you folks, please get out of your comfort zone. If you drink Cab or you drink Chardonnay, please consider trying some other wines other than those two varietals, because there's so many out there. Worldwide, there's over 10,000 varietals of wine grapes, 10,000, okay? So, and we in California, I think, bottle about 120 of that. That's it. So there's some wonderful wines out there other than Cabernet Sauvignon and Chardonnay. And they're very, very close to those, and they have, the varietals have the characteristics, but it's really a fascinating education to try these different wines.
So Brian, do you know,
Go ahead, sorry.
Brian, do you know my friend Ross Halleck?
For some,
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I must have a poor connection here. For some reason.
I said, do you know my friend Ross Halleck?
Boy, I'm sorry. It doesn't ring a bell with me.
Yeah, he produces a wonderful Pinot Noir, but up in the Russian River area.
Yes, that's a very, very successful grape in that area. Very much so.
Yeah,
yes.
Small winery. Put it on your list.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I will. Excellent.
I think Terry has a question. Terry.
Actually, no, I didn't. Very good, informative meeting, though.
So I have a question. So there's these registries where so the analogy for wine now is like it's an adult baseball card collection. So do you have like your collection? Is it registered? Like you know what I'm talking about, where there's some system that people put their wines in and everybody can look at it and go, isn't that cool? Like a database?
No, I haven't. I've dove into that. The picture behind me isn't really my wine room. Mine's considerably thinner than that. It's about that size, but my bottles don't stay here very long. So that is basically, that's an interesting approach. I don't know. There's some wines in there that I probably would say I don't know if anybody would want to know about them. There's some wines, unfortunately, in my cellar that are a little old and may not be any good anymore. And that's the fun part about it is, God, You think it's still good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently, my friend's done this twice, where he buys these wine.
You can't do
collections
that with beer, can you, Ken?
Yeah, no, you can't. But I mean, you could, I guess. But he buys these wine collections from people that have passed away. But and then they got these wine brokers, and their whole collection is like logged in online, and then guys go through and see what stuff is worth, and then they decide to buy the collection or not. It's pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, estate sales. Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
It's astonishing when you look at some of the prices. I'm sure you've heard of a winery called Screaming Eagle. Their latest release on their cab is $2,800 a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, the real challenge here is, okay, you go out and buy a bottle at that price, and then you go put it away. You better damn well know how to care for that bottle while you've got it, because at what point you decide to sell it, they're going to ask, I'm not going to pay $2,800 if I don't know how you cared for that wine. You know, if you let it sit out in the room and let the sun hit it every day, you know, how do you know that? And that's the other issue with the private collections, is you have to make sure that the person that private collection came from knew how to take care of the wine.
Yeah.
Otherwise, hey, it's a shot in the dark. And I'll tell you right now, I'd hate to pay, you know, $20 for a bottle of vinegar. You know? So you have to be aware that your sources on where you're purchasing wines, if you're a collector, for sure.
Yeah. I think the last one he said he paid like $54,000.
Looks like we're quiet here.
Yeah.
Hey,
one last question. 54 grand, yeah. But he sold off a big chunk of it to pay that, and now he told me he's basically has about 3,100 bottles that are free in essence, because he paid off he sold off the rest to cover the cost. Have you ever heard of Venezia wine? I just want to bust some balls today. Have you ever heard of that one?
Jerry's just sitting there howling about this. Jerry's probably got a story to tell too.
Well, Paul, one of was it your brother or brother-in-law or?
No, my brother. It's my brother.
Brother, yeah.
His brother owned Venezia Winery up in the Gold Country.
Highway 49.
Yeah, but their wine sold the best when Paul would visit, and they would do the stomping. Because Paul's got gold.
Well, that's because you got Paul's toe jam in it. Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to make sure they got those feet clean. Otherwise, that toe jam comes out. And by the way, it's a fault in wine.
Brian, I can't claim familial association with Davis Bynum, unfortunately, which is a good wine. But
yeah, I was wondering about that. Yeah.
No, I've been up there, and he and I traced our roots, and mine goes back, I think, to some criminals, and his goes back to pioneers. So a little different. But question, I like Australian Shirazes. Have you got is there a good domestic one that you know of that's equivalent, or should I go down to Paso Robles and sample, or are there other places to attack?
Boy, Shiraz is becoming very, very popular. I'm thinking of, boy, Paso Robles does a dynamite job on their wines down there. There's no question about it. I'm trying to think. I came across a winery, and I don't think they're there anymore. I think it was called York Mountain Winery out of Paso Robles, and they did a dynamite job on. They claimed it was unfiltered Shiraz, and I didn't know there was such a critter, and it was absolutely to die for. And I just bought one bottle. I said, well, I'll try it, and I got home here, and I said, Jesus, this is great. I'm going back. So I went back. The guy says, sold out. I said, well, what about next year's vintage? He says, no, we're not making it anymore. I said, oh man, that was right at my cup of tea, And wine is individual, okay? Just because I like a particular style, you may not. And as a wine judge, we can't guarantee that you're going to like a gold medal wine. And I want to point that out to you. We pick a wine and give it a gold medal because it in our viewpoint, is an excellent example of that style of winemaking with that particular grape. You may not like it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. You're developing your taste or have developed a taste and a fancy for particular elements in a wine. And so you need to pursue that, and don't let anybody tell you this is the best wine to drink, because it's not. It's what you like is the best wine to drink. That's it. That's the truth.
Brian, when you were giving this presentation to Cameron Park, you mentioned the price of wine, a $10 bottle versus a $25 bottle. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, what it amounts to is that wine prices are driven by a multitude of factors, okay? Every winemaker has the bottles, the hard materials they have to put, the grapes, the cork, you know, the labels, all of that. Everybody experiences that. But what really drives the price is the supply and demand, okay? And so if you have a high demand on a small supply, the price is going to jack up, all right? But please be aware that just because a bottle of wine costs a lot of money doesn't mean it's going to be good, all right? I fell in that trap when I first got involved in wine, and I got talked into buying. At that time, cabs were $10 to $12 a bottle, and I wound up paying close to $100 for this one French wine that this guy convinced me to buy. And I had a buddy come over, and the two of us were, I'm surprised that he brought a bottle that he had bought at the local grocery store, and he bought it based on the label. He just looked at the label and says, hey, this looks great, let's try it. And by and large,
Uh-oh. Are we buffering?
We're
buffering.
I think we're buffering. Brian?
Hey, I was gonna ask Brian to turn around and grab a bottle out from behind him, because I thought that was just a backdrop. I was like, that's too perfect.
By the way, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I should tell you that the wines in El Dorado County and Amador County are just outstanding. And when the time is right, you want to come up and do some wine tasting, Angie and I would love to have you come.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Oh, you
That's
sound
good.
like all of us could come there? Maybe we can do a social event.
Oh, at the house. Instead of going to Reno, we're all gonna sleep on the Hassler's floor.
Yeah.
All right. So what
Okay.
happened?
I think I lost
Okay,
him.
I have to go do another book drop pickup at the kids' school.
Okay, hey, Joan, are you there still?
Yes.
Yeah, one sec. What's up, buddy?
Can you get a speaker for next week by any chance? Or
I'll think about it and let you know
Does Hayden
later.
have a what?
Okay. All right. Okay, so I guess we lost our guy, including Rebecca, but we'll
The
see.
speaker had had enough of us.
Yeah, it was a really good. I really liked the speaker. Thanks a lot, Roger, for turning us on to him. It was great. And I guess I'll see you guys next week, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
See all of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.